Switch it up a little bit. Okay. That's it. I appreciate it. Oh, where was the lady that said she wanted to get a picture up there? Okay. Can I get a picture? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll start the intro. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Black Man in America, to heal and be the healer. My name is Kelly Davis. I'll be moderating this session and will be available if you require any assistance. Before we get started, just a few quick announcements. First, wanted to acknowledge the folks who are joining us virtually. Please be sure to put your questions and comments in the chat, and we will get to those during the Q&A. This session is worth 1 hour of continuing education credit. If you're interested in receiving these, visit the CEs through the NASW VA tab on our conference app or virtual platforms. After the session, please make sure to complete the session evaluation form that's listed in the session description. And don't forget to post on social media. Use hashtag MHAConf2020 or 22. I keep messing that up every time. And tag at Mental Health America. Lastly, we know some content can be triggering or distressing, so please take care of yourself. If you need to step out or log off, please feel free to do so. And if you're in person, we also have a wellness room available in Yellowstone, Everglades, which I can direct y'all to. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter. Gary T. Taylor is a licensed clinical social worker with over 10 years in the field of mental health. He has been in private practice for a year and providing therapy and counseling services for the last 5 to 6 years. And with that, I will pass it over to Gary.
Let's see here. Happy Friday. How's everyone doing today? Y'all doing all right? I'm glad that you made it out. Glad that everybody's here safe and sound. Hope that, you guys are having an amazing time at this Mental Health America's conference. This is my first time presenting here and first time attending. Any first time attendees? Oh, great day. Wow. Well, we're doing something right. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Kelly, for introducing me. I am, like I said, Gary T. Taylor, licensed clinical social worker. Will be presenting on Black Men in America to Heal and Be the Healer. And of course, what we're going to do with this presentation is we're going to go through a different array of topics. I'm going to do a lot of stories from my personal journeys, my clinical journeys, my personal journeys, along with some data statistics provided by Mental Health America, of course. And then also just some common themes that have maybe popped up in the last, 50, 60, 70 years, ongoing right now today. Some may be familiar, some may not be familiar about these different movements, but we're just going to kind of go through in and out and weave in and out, because if we go into detail, we'll probably be here all night. And I know y'all want to, go ahead home and get yourself together. You know what I'm saying? So real quick, before we start, I like to start my exercises or facilitating and speaking engagements with some deep breathing, just to kind of relax ourselves a little bit, because some of this stuff can be really heavy, and also it's to calm my nerves too, right? So if you all would like to participate in doing some deep breathing real quick, I want to set that tone as well, especially for the virtual audience. If you're in your virtual space, you can do the same thing. Now, of course, in the deep breathing aspect activity, we're just taking 3 deep breaths. That's all we're doing, okay? If you're not unable to take 3 deep breaths, please, you don't have to take really deep breaths, okay? So is everybody okay with that? All right. So I want you guys to, you all to take a deep, slow breath and go ahead and breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. Last one. Breathe in and out. Drop some of them shoulders. Drop them shoulders a little bit. How's that feel for everybody? Good, good, good. All right, well, let's get this thing started on up real quick. Everybody can hear me good? If I'm talking too low, y'all tell me now. Y'all just go ahead. Hey, speak up now. All right. My name is G.Taylor, licensed clinical social worker. You can call me Trey this evening. Graduated from George Mason University with my master's degree in social work. Also have a bachelor's of science in psychology from Virginia Commonwealth University. I'm born and bred Virginia boy from Caroline County, Virginia. I don't know if y'all know where Kings Dominion is at. Y'all know where that's at? We got some out. Y'all know? Okay, good stuff. Okay, so about 15 minutes from Kings Dominion, right there is Caroline County, a little rural area. Matter of fact, how many people we got out of state right now? Who's out of state? Y'all go ahead and shout them out. Oh, okay, half the room. Where y'all from? Huh? Atlanta? Rhode Island? Oh, okay. Philly? All right, okay. Florida? Oh, wow. Yeah, that's good. Connecticut? Okay. Who's? Bahamas? Wow. I missed the Bahamas. Matter of fact, we can go ahead and cancel right now. Let's go ahead back to Bahamas. Where you say you from? Michigan. Okay, I got some homies up. Detroit? What's Detroit? Detroit? Okay. I got Atlanta again. Okay, shout out. I got the people up in Michigan, my homeboys up there, and social workers and stuff like that. So, man, y'all made a whole trip all the way out here to the east side, East Coast, D.C. I love it. So, thank y'all for being here, making that trek. I know that's, it's from safety-wise and traveling, it can be tough. So, I'm glad you made it on out. Took me about an hour and a half to get up here, then got into this Northern Virginia, D.C. traffic, which is just a pain. It's a pain, okay? Just keep me on my back roads in my cornfield. That's where I'm from, all right? So, anyways, I'm an owner of Uphold 318. It's private practice, which was, initially founded as a community group where I was doing community work in my hometown. Turned into a private practice where I serve African-American men and women doing therapy with them, individual therapy, psychotherapy. Been doing that since December 2020, part-time. Jumped out here full-time, did it last year around this time. It was Memorial Day. I was working in substance use, in a MAT treatment program, medicated assisted treatment program, and just woke up on Memorial Day weekend and said, you know what? It's about time for me to go ahead and part ways after 2 years. And of course, I have 10 to 11 years of experience in the field of mental health in a variety of settings. I started my mental health journey career in starting in psychiatric inpatient. And so that's where some of my foundations have started out to lend way to where I'm at in private practice. Psychiatric inpatient, crisis therapy, substance use, in-home, in the jail, community-based mental health treatment, nonprofit work. I've been around the world a little bit in the mental health field. So several years in the field of social work, of course, and just kind of looking at how everything has passed me by in these last couple of years, because now I'm looking out, you've been in the field for quite some time, so you've seen some things from every part of the DSM-5 all the way to regular mental health and stresses like that. So that's kind of my, clinical background and journey. Also an author, author of a book called You Good Fam, which is a book about mental health in the Black community. So we'll be talking about a little bit of those themes. I have a new book coming up called Refresh the Journey to Find Peace, which is more like a self-help memoir, which it looks to me has going to turn into a grief and loss book. So we'll see the outcomes of that, but be on the lookout for that in October. Also podcasts. Podcasts. I love podcasts because I love talking, as you can see while I'm up here. And it's called Everybody Relax. It's on Apple Podcasts or any type of other digital streaming platforms that you have. You can check it out there, where I do a lot of social work themes, mental health themes, this, that, and the third. And lastly, most importantly, I'm a father, I'm a husband, sneakerhead, car enthusiast, coffee lover, and follower of Christ. I'm a deacon at my church. Just had a newborn, so I'm a little sleep deprived. He'll be actually coming up on a month, 3 weeks now, coming up on a month here soon. So me and him been, fighting it out, trying to get these sleep hours together. So that's a little bit about me. So I have some changes. Y'all ever do a presentation and y'all looked at it, you did it one way, and then you came back, looked at it again, you was like, I need to put something else, place something else, right? Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I made a slight modification at the end of this presentation. It's gonna see a slide called Story Time, and I'm gonna just input them and drop them in between each certain slides, okay? And then I'll prompt y'all, like, hey, story time coming, okay? So with that being said, story time coming. So before we get to our objectives, imagine yourself, this is where I say I want to blend everything together. 16 years old, African-American man at this point, me, got my first car, my first love of cars started with my green Honda Accord, 1993 Honda Accord. Green, had 17s on it. I had a system in it, some subs in the back, tweeters in the doors, all the green LED lights on it, just everything. Anything you could think about as a 16-year-old at that time, that was my car. So I'm riding around, me and my cousin, and had a friend with me, and just riding around. And of course, my area is mostly a little bit more rural than everybody else's, between the different counties. It's like Caroline, Spotsylvania, Fredericksburg, Stafford, King George. They're all set aside in a little mostly rural town, suburban type area. And I'm riding, and I see a car behind me, and they move when I move, they move when I move again, next lane, and then next thing I know, I see lights. This car was unmarked, and when they hopped out of the car, they wasn't regular plain policemen. They were, these ones with camo shorts too, I believe, camo shorts and vests, right? Now, that's unusual for my rural area. I'm used to my deputies and sheriffs with regular plain clothes. I can point their car out, but this was unmarked car. So I pull over my Honda Accord, and I am there, and they come knock on the window. And I said, "What's up, officer? How can I help you?" And they say, "Well, where you going?" And I was like, "Well, I'm just, about to go head to my homie's house, and me and my cousin doing whatever." And they was like, "Oh, okay, well, you were swerving." And I said, "Well, no, I put my signal light on. I moved to the lane, you moved behind me, move here." It's like, "Oh, well, you're trying to check on because you were swerving." It's like, all right, cool, whatever you want to say. 16-year-old, I got braids. I don't, I'm got my music on my car, and this, that, and the third. I don't know, whatever. He says, can I search your car? What do you mean? There's nothing here. Well, we just looking, can we see? And at the time, I didn't know it. I didn't know you couldn't have your car searched without a warrant present. But me being a 16-year-old black teen, scared, not sure what's going on because I never seen these type of officers before. I said, go ahead, search my. I said, go ahead, yes. I said, you're not gonna find anything but a bunch of wires to the system and all that. And ain't nothing else in the car. And they searched the car. They got me out my car, got my friend out the car, put us on the side of the road, and they searched the car. And I was scared. I was anxious. I was fearful. This was around 2004. And I didn't know what was happening, what was going on, because why is my car being searched? And why am I not getting I'm used to getting speeding tickets, but this is not a speeding ticket or a traffic stop. This is a you fit the description stop. And as they say, okay, well, as they typically say when they used to search my car back in the day, they say, oh, your car is so clean. You can have a good night. And I just accepted that. Infuriated. Didn't know what to do or know what was going on. But this would be the start of multiple traffic stops, not routine traffic stops, but fitting the description, profiling. So this is where we start our story of Black man in America to be heal and be the healer. Some objectives from what we're trying to learn today: learning how to establish trust and rapport with clients who identify as African American, addressing the fear and implicit bias that may be plaguing culturally competent treatment, creating a space of representation that allows for African American clients to be seen, heard, and validated, and to understand the intersectionality of race and mental health and its effects. My job is to bridge the two, because race and mental health go hand in hand, and how I define mental health is how we deal with day-to-day life stressors. So being a Black man in America, it comes with a different level of stressors. Being a Black clinician in this space comes with another set of stressors. So I will kind of craft out and work through this presentation and kind of and let you and explore that with you all, to show that these things are just not just, hey, you get up and you go to work. There's a different weight that is aligned with us as African American therapists and mental health professionals. A couple of terms that we're going to look at: racial equity. When one's racial identity can no longer be used to predict life outcomes, implicit bias, attitudes, or stereotypes that affect our understanding in an unconscious manner. Microaggressions, a comment or action that subtly and awfully, consciously or unintentionally expresses a prejudiced attitude towards a member of a marginalized group. I like to also talk about microaggressions, the things that we know is there, but I can't explicitly point it out, but we know as a people. Trauma, I define as a deeply distressing or disturbing experience, not going into complex PTSD or PTSD in general. Excuse me. Mental health, I said already how we deal with daily life stressors. Stress, which is one thing I always talk about and speak with everybody, also with my clients, is the feeling of emotional or physical tension or pressure placed on an object. Now, stress is something that we can't physically touch, but we feel it, whether that be mentally, physically, or spiritually. So I am of the belief that stress is one of the biggest culprits of our mental health issues, of physical issues, medical conditions, because it's one of those things that runs rampant through our body. We hold stress in different places in our bodies, just like we did a deep breathing activity. Were you familiar when you did the deep breathing, you relaxed a little bit? Did your shoulders drop a little bit? Did you feel your body kind of relax and unclench? That's the stresses of the day. So imagine, as a Black man, Black woman in this space, or walking around in America, holding on to so much of that weight and tension. What's typically going to happen after that? Because we talk about if it's too much stress builds up over time, then it has to go somewhere if it's not getting a way to get out, right? So that's the biggest piece. I always talk about stress. I know we have underlying mental health conditions and things that add into that, but I believe stress is one of the biggest issues that, affects our mental health and physical health as well. Stigma, of course, discrimination against an identifiable group of people, place, or a nation. Stigma is a really big conversation and big definition around that. We want to avoid stigma, but a lot of us are no strangers to stigma. And Most of us are some mental health professionals or career path people, if you like me as a black therapist or a black social worker, it's not a lot of us. So then we often stigmatized on what role should we play, right? Like I'm 6'1" guy, 240 some pounds. I'm looked as the security, not as a therapist, or if I walk into space, it might be seen as more intimidating versus as a helper. And these are the things that we have to work through as black men in this space, or black women as well. They might, come off, you see black women, are they trying to express themselves or, acknowledge what they're trying to work, they're trying to do, and then they get labeled as the angry black woman, like when you're just trying to do your job, So these are things that we deal with constantly on a daily basis, whether it's on our career path or in the actual community as well when we take our roles off. Another one is very pertinent to, I feel like, the intersectionality of race, social justice, and mental health is the Black Messiah effect. Someone could unify and electrify the Black nationalist movement that would create a revolution against America. Coined by J. Edgar Hoover at the time out of fear of all of the Black nationalist movements that were happening in America. And as a result, as you see some of these individuals on here, they were assassinated. Speculation continues to go on, but if you do the research, you see things that were being infiltrated, multiple movements being infiltrated, that led to this Black Messiah effect not happening. But I also look at it as the fear of the black man as well. And that comes up a lot because when we exert ourselves or we can position ourselves to move a people, we get a target on our back historically. And that's a real fear that I struggle with at times, because the work that I want to do is working with our people, working with our community, and I'm opinionated. I might say some stuff that get the room real silent or get people charged up, and that makes me look a certain way. Now, when I think about it, I have to be cautious. I have a family. I have a wife. I have a daughter. I have a son. Have a little puppy. Like, he gonna miss me when I'm not feeding. Who gonna feed him? But I'm a son. I'm a son and a friend. I have all these different relationships with people. So there is some fear when I speak out. Story time. At the height of George Floyd and the racial and social injustices that were happening throughout the country, Richmond, Virginia was a hotbed for protesting. There were a lot of protesting in the streets for weeks, months. I went down there one time, was in part of one of the marches, and came back home. There was fear, though, that my wife feared. Actually, her mom, her grandmother, my mom feared if I was to go down there, I would be targeted. Because 6-foot black man at the top of the thing, something pops off, it's going to be me involved. And at the point in time, there was a lot of situations going on around tear gas and the police and how they was moving and organizing down there. But so I was allowed to go once, and that was my one time to go. And I went, and it was a part of that. But it was surreal for me because at the point in time, I was working for a major healthcare system in the area while it was going on. And I was also involved in a lot of community discussions in my hometown around this very topic. And what was happening was, and we was also working on trying to remove a Confederate monument in our hometown as well. There we had that whole situation going on in Virginia, removing Confederate monuments. And I was part of a grassroots organization to help that get done. But that community groups, community conversations around the situation, protesting in Richmond, the increase in DEI work at the healthcare system that I was working with, that was ongoing the whole entire time. But there wasn't no support. There wasn't no, hey, how are you doing? At the point in time while I was working in substance abuse as a case manager, We work with a high population of African American people in what we would call the hood. And as the protesting was going on, while we would try to get to work or try to help help our people, the only email we got was, "Hey, protesting has happened. Make sure you're safe. Make sure you get to work on time. If you got to be late, that's okay. Just let us know." That was it. Nothing else. So I took it upon myself, and some of my colleagues, black women, of course, and we took the time to speak to our department head about, hey, we're not acknowledging any of what's going on in our communities that we are serving to the population that we are serving. You're talking about a population, right, that, because Richmond has a high level of gun violence. So that was already there. Then you got our protests on top of that. So you are saying that we are not going to address not just the feelings and emotions of the clients that we are working with who are already privy and victim to PTSD, gun violence, losing people every day, and now protesting and can see themselves as these individuals being killed by law enforcement. We're not just going to say anything. Some of our clients can identify as in fear of being George Floyd. They could have been a hashtag, and these things kept. And then we're also going to just say get here on time, if you can. And so we identified that. So we spoke up, we said that, and had a conversation. Everybody was like, "Oh, okay, great. This is. I'm sorry about that. We're sorry that we didn't acknowledge that. I kind of got caught up in whatever's going on, this, that, and the third. Mind you, I'm the only black man in my staff, about maybe 75 people, and there were black women, of course. And then it came up, DEI started coming up, and the agency-wide DEI, department DEI, conversations around the community and the departments around this topic, and I shared my journey. But then I started to look around because older employers and my colleagues would come in and say, "I'm glad you spoke up." Because for years, I've had issues or discretions as a black employee here, but I fear if I spoke up, I would lose my job. So this is why I say, even like when we go through this whole presentation and it might feel like, "Oh, you're out of order, you're all over the place," or why is it not one specific thing? It's because this is multiple different things intertwined in one. The reason I spoke up because I wasn't felt supported, and it was social justice and racial justice happening around me in my area that I was serving and working with. While also speaking up, there were employees, my employees or my colleagues who were fearful of speaking up due to the fact that they would be reprimanded or lose their job. Look how many social constructs or issues were in that one statement. That's a constant thing for us as black people every day. So people that have been there for 10, 15 years, fearful of speaking up for how they've been treated or looked over for promotions or how we were treating our clients, for fear that they might lose their job. I had no fear, because you know what? I was out the door. I was going to private practice anyway. So if y'all decided to fire me, I was going to go right into here and go start therapy, right? But everybody doesn't have that luxury. Private practice is not no easy thing to just jump into, and people just don't jump into entrepreneurship and business full time. People have lives. And so that is where I seen the shift, and I started to feel like there was Trey's the one that's always speaking up, and he's going to be the one speaking up, and I started to feel really scared. Because now, I don't know if they're looking at me sideways. I don't know if they're going to look at me and say that, "Oh, well, we're going to try to fire you too." And it was solidified while doing that and working in my community groups, doing the community conversations, trying to get the Confederate monuments down, where I was called a bully. And I realized that I had a revelation where I told the community group of elected officials, sheriff's office, school board members, clergy, everybody involved, that you get to go home at night not worry about any of this. We just come here, have a conversation, check it off the box. I get to come in here, spill my guts, spill my story, have to go back and work in the same environment to serve the same people that's dealing with the same stuff, and do this. And there's still a fear that I will leave this place and be killed. You deal with that, because it's a reality for me every single time. And that right there in and of itself was like, oh, there's the target coming. There's the thought of I'm doing the work, trying to challenge and change the narrative, but at the same time that come with a cost. Look at all my predecessors before me. And it gets scary, especially if you have a family. It's still scary today, speaking what I'm speaking now. What could happen? I still got to make it home tonight. So that Messiah effect, that ability to move people, that ability to organize, that's still present to me, I feel like, in the day. And it goes way into all the intersection of the race and mental health, but also the social justice and racial justice and mental health that happens in the Black community. But I'm no stranger to all the other things that comes along with dealing with the normal everyday stresses of life. I have my share of microaggressions to racial profiling, as we talked about, dealing with my parents' divorce, dealing with bouts of high blood pressure at a young age due to stress, and then also dealing with grief and loss. There was a period of time from 2015 to 2020 where me and my wife lost 1 or 2 or 3 family members each year. So now you throw in the other element of there's racial and social justice and unrest. I work within that community 9 to 5 and 5 to 9. I'm a Black man. I feel like I've probably had times where I could have been a hashtag. And I have my own mental health issues going on. There was a point in time where I didn't know which emotion to feel. It was cycled between anger, frustration, happiness, sadness, depression, anxiety, and keep going on. But I had to go back to work and show up every single day. I had to go back and still show up for my clients in the midst of all of this, because all of that was happening around 2020. And not to mention, still be a father and a husband, still be a friend, still be a community church member. This is the added weight for us as African-American people that we deal with on a daily basis. And it's also prevalent in the systems that we operate with and within. And I'll talk about a story about that, about how I was in the system, one of the systems, and I'm still in the system, but how I felt like how I aided in the demise, possibly of that person not seeking out mental health treatment anymore. And that's a weight that I have to carry with me. But before we get into that, look at the mental health in the Black community. We already talked about social justice, unrest, racial justice. We kind of sprinkle that in some more. But we talk about depression. Adult Blacks and African Americans are more likely to have feelings of sadness, hopelessness, and worthlessness than adult whites. We just don't talk about it, right? Sometimes we say depression, and when I did a survey on this, depression is a sign of weakness in our community, or it's just part of the normal part of the aging. And it's just a normal thing. But what about that depression that turns into anger? What about that depression that turns into anxiety, isolation, not having any type of interest in things anymore? We just feel like that's the normal part of life. Nah, what's going on? Cultural competence. Even we talk about getting treatment, getting help, regardless of the healthcare system, whether it's being medical professionals, mental health professionals, or anybody else, even our career path. Some may worry that mental health care practitioners are not culturally competent enough to treat their specific issues. If you are a white clinician or somebody of a race ethnicity working with Black clients, are you able to understand what I just talked about? Are you able to relate to that client when they come in there and they tell you, man, I don't know how to feel, but I feel angry. What you feel angry about? The world. I don't feel like I'm being, or some of my clients who talk about, they in certain fields, they don't have no space to be themselves. They one person in the room. Look around you. Look how many black men is in here. As I walk down this conference, I ain't seen no brothers for a while. That can be fearful. And I have to sit up here on this stage and talk to y'all. So I got to make sure I'm on my P's and Q's. You know what I'm saying? But that's the world we live in. Are you prepared to provide culturally competent care, even in the healthcare setting or even in the mental health setting? Suicide ideation, suicidal thoughts, plans, and attempts are also rising among Black and African American young adults. That goes down to our children, ages 7 through 10, all the way to 21, boys and girls. The suicide rates have increased twofold over the past 10 to 15 years for our Black youth. There is a problem going on. There is an issue. We need to resolve it. We need to address it. Or we're losing too many youth to suicide. They're so young, they're so precious, they still have the world in front of them. But what is going on? I'm no stranger to those thoughts. I'm no stranger to working with clients who have either completed suicide or have thoughts, have attempted. I'm no stranger to that comes with this work. But the rise in suicidal rates and plans and attempts in our youth is at a crisis level, and it has not been just now. It's been that for 5 to 10 years. I got so upset a couple years ago. I saw an article about it. I didn't understand why. And I said, what you mean, why? The writings are on the wall. Lack of access to culturally competent care, lack of access to mental health care in these communities, no trust, no building rapport, no safety. Am I safe with you talking to you about the issues that are going on? Do you understand me when I'm talking about these things? It's not a lot of us out there. It's not a lot of Black clinicians. And it's not to say that this field is just glitz and glamour. It's hard work. So where do they show up at? Not to mention all the social inequities and disadvantages that happen, school to prison pipelines with our kids, the over-policing of our young girls and boys. This happens every single day. This is entrenched in the systems of which we operate in and we trust on a daily basis. This is why this is happening. It's not just from happenstance. These things been happening for a long time. Other barriers, like I'm talking about it, trust in the medical field, access to insurance, income equality, police brutality and killings. All these different things are different barriers to sound mental health treatment in the Black community. And I'm glad to see now we are working to better our mental health in the Black community, but there are still a lot of barriers. And if we talk about mental health, dealing with how it is from day-to-day life stressors, right, then there's still barriers in different places. So we're talking about the amount of Black families who are getting mortgage loans to get housing. That's still an issue. That stems back from redlining. Income equality. There's still data behind African Americans earning less on a dollar than their white counterparts. That's an issue. Because if I can't qualify for the mortgage and I'm not getting the adequate wages that I need to make to qualify for the mortgage, what am I to do? These are the things that continue to happen. Healthcare, finance, career path, college. Like, these are all things that are entrenched in the systems that with which we operate in that are still barriers to this day. It might not be civil rights era. It might not be Jim Crow era. But the stigmas and the microaggressions still live rampant throughout the spaces that we operate in. Look at the median household income. From 2018 to 2019, Black median household incomes of $45,000. Look at the rates. The lowest from all that. That impacts a lot. That impacts a lot of generational wealth. That impacts home buying, college, all of these different things. Gas, y'all see how high gas is? I want to buy an EV, but the EV about as expensive as the house. Electric car. I want to buy an electric car, but it's about the same as the price of my mortgage or the house. I hope Elon wasn't watching that. But look at the poverty rate. Poverty rate is still rampant and high in our black communities. We have the, children, adolescents, older adults, most of which still living in poverty to this day. It is way more expensive to live than it was back in the day. A couple of my seasoned folks in here, they can attest to that. It's expensive. And one of the interesting things was when I worked in substance use was different from working in mental health for so long was the different psychosocial stressors that were present that I had no idea how to initiate and how to work through. Because I would have somebody that had co-occurring substance use disorder, mental health disorder, but then was living on fixed income, living in the projects, and had no transportation. And they may have burned all their bridges or their community resources to even get help, or the community resources were tapped out, or and I stuck with what I need to do. I wanted to build a housing piece with them so they can have one stable place to go to get everything at, because that's where the healthcare system was doing. But if they once they leave that clinic, then I can't do anything. And it was really troubling for me. All these different stressors that were affecting their mental space, which was also affecting if they were staying sober or if they was going back into remission. It wasn't, just because they were just a user or they can't stop using. No. They had multiple psychosocial stresses in their place that was affecting their mental space, affecting how they lived on a daily basis, and that was leading to that. How hard it is to stay clean and sober when you don't know if you're going to have a place to live tonight. I mean, let's be honest. If we miss one bill, we freaking out. So imagine a life of not knowing every single day, on top of being black in these spaces. It's a different weight. When you start talking about the intersectionality of race and mental health, and we talk about the social issues, the historical implications, how the past also impacts today, how things are still rampant today that have, those underlyings from the past. When you look at the stressors, if you start breaking this stuff down, because I think a lot of us in here are mental health professionals or advocates. If you start breaking this stuff down and you look at the correlation between the two or the intersectionality, you can see where some of these things are present. So for us in the African American community, we look at the stressors where I kind of label them as career, family, friends. We've talked about environment, finances, physical health, substance use, abuse, racism, discrimination, and shame, right? Of all of that, it can lead to anger, isolation, withdrawal, substance abuse, again, suicide ideations, medical conditions. I am a firm believer, especially for us as black men, because I always on my brothers about this, because we don't like going to the doctor for fear of treatment in the medical field. Because I had one client, he was like, back and forth, I said, well, you went to the doctor yet? Nah, not yet, Gary, not yet, man, I'm going. I said, listen, man, look, I don't care nothing about this therapy. If you don't take your butt to the doctor, we're going to have a problem. That's how I talk to my clients, man. So, but I'm passionate about that, even in therapy, because there are some underlying things that might be we're not dealing with. That's, it might be a medical issue causing a mental health issue, or a mental health issue causing a medical issue. And for us as men, black men, especially dealing with high blood pressure, diabetes, kidney disease, cancer, all these different things, what did I say earlier? Stress built up over time. I know my men. We some hard brothers. We gonna hold that stuff in. Believe me, it took a couple months for some of my men to even come through and break through and say they got something dealing with something. And I told him, I said, look, I got a special set of skills. We're going to get it out you one way or another. But looking at how that medical condition is going on, have you been to the doctor, have you checked those different things? Even when I talk to black women, like, have you checked your thyroid level? Because that can lead to different issues with like mood, instability, this, that, and the third, depression, anxiety. And this little thing right here controls so much, even for us as men too. Check your thyroid levels too. But stress. I think about I grew up with a big mama and big daddy, great grandparents for people who don't know. Big mama and big daddy, they had all this land. They had their own cattle and chickens and stuff like that. My mom would say, she remember my great granddaddy, big daddy, going out there and getting a chicken and, doing his own cutting and peeling. He was his own Purdue man out in Carolina, But I remember having the conversation back in the day when I was younger, not in the mental health field because I was supposed to be, in the league playing ball with LeBron. But, shout out to LeBron if you're watching. Y'all need a therapist out in LA. I can come holler at y'all. But you remember the conversations around nervous breakdowns back in the day? And so I'm like, as I got older, I'm like, nervous breakdown. And I was like, they ain't nothing but, mental health episode, mental health issues, maybe, related to anxiety or depression, this, that, and the third. And, I think about Big Mama. Big Mama used to take care of everybody. Big Mama, I'm Big Mama. She raised me since I was a baby. I was riding around with her all the time. My Big Mama, she had a real bad stroke that paralyzed her, and she couldn't talk. She was bedridden for a while. So I don't have any memories of her talking, but I remember what my mom and them would tell me about just how I used to ride around with her all the time. But she had that, and I just was like, if Big Mama took care of everybody, and let's just say necessarily she had a nervous breakdown, who was taking care of Big Mama? Or Big Mama was putting the weight of the world back on her shoulders to provide for her family. Same thing for Big Daddy. And I just think about that built up stress, that generational trauma, where they came from, the era that they grew up in, how they had to survive, and how staying in a hypervigilant mode every single day must feel, and what the weight it takes on the body. I know what a little bit of anxiety do to me. I can't imagine living in that era every single day fearing for my life. I know what speaking out and saying this stuff right now and looking at, some of that's why I don't really watch a lot of those videos, because I don't think it's not healthy for us to intake that every single day, because it affects you. A lot of my clients will see it and watch them like, y'all, so you watching these videos of people dying like that look like you, that you can relate to, that you can correlate to, or you had certain incidents and experience with the law enforcement or getting guns pulled on you, this, that, and the third. You are going to internalize that, and that's going to make you feel away. You're going to feel angry. You're going to feel anxious. You're going to feel upset. That's that trauma coming through, So I think about how they walked through, and they did what they can, because I think we're resilient people, but that term I feel like is just dated, because we shouldn't have to be. And it's still today. So how much of that stress, that trauma, that generational stuff that's sitting on us, that's passed down from generation to generation, family to family, how much is sitting and weighing on us and just aiding in other things that we're dealing with? I like to call that the Big Mama effect. Who was helping Big Mama when Big Mama was helping the whole family? So this is, coming some of that intersectionality of race and mental health that come up and pop up. And, kind of the last story that I want to share is, of which one, where we're talking about me wanting to get in the field to help people, me wanting to help my black community in the mental health, because, to deal with these things that we're dealing with that generational trauma, dealing with the things that we, those barriers to treatment, working through that. And that hard stone that sometimes we have, chiseling that and that brick wall, working through that so we can get to a place of healing. But it was one time while I was working in crisis, and I did crisis therapy for 3.5 years. Probably one of the most stressful, intense jobs that I've ever had, and I'll never go back. But I will say it made me made me a great therapist, because I'm always assessing. Sometimes I got to cut it off. I don't want to assess no more. I just want to be regular. But I'm 2 stories, matter of fact. But the first one is, as I'm going to do a crisis assessment, I'm in my Beamer. I love cars again. You know what I'm saying? It's not a new Beamer. It's an old Beamer, y'all. Don't look at me like that's old Beamer. It's old. Paint fading a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, 3 o'clock in the morning. Because I'm, doing overnight shifts. If y'all know, working in crisis, y'all know we flip-flop on different shifts. And I'm driving. I'm trying to get some coffee to go to an assessment, to go to I think it was an ECO at that time, emergency custody order we have in Virginia, where you have ECOs to do assessments to see if they meet criteria for psychiatric inpatient or outpatient. So it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm riding. Streets are empty. I pull into Wawa, get a cup of coffee. Law enforcement spot the area comes. I'm right here. They come to this side right here. Spotlight on my car. Now, again, I'm used to this. This is something that happened to me multiple times, regardless of whatever car I'm riding in. If I got rims or system blasting, or I'm just stock, basic, and got nothing on it. It happens. And I said, "What's up, officer?" And I ain't know this officer. See, I'm trying to work myself in. Hopefully, I can help mitigate some of that profiling, because I work with law enforcement every day in this job. I probably know this officer, right? I don't know him. I was like, okay. So, give my license registration. He's like, this isn't a traffic stop. I said, okay. Here's my license registration. This isn't a traffic stop. So what is it? Because you parked Catacomb with the light on my car in front of all these people. Now, typically, most of my cars, people know my cars. So if we don't come to a conversation, people are going to start asking questions. And he was like, "Where are you coming from?" Or, again, something about that shift in the lane, or something about I did this weird. Again, I'm like, bro, I ain't do all that, man. I'm just riding. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm trying to go to an assessment, brother. And it's your people who got the assessment on the thing. And he was like, okay, well, something about, a lot of people, this car, or this car is this, that, and the third. I'm like, all right, cool. Here's my license and registration. What's up with it? And I'm not getting animated with him, because I don't know what's going to happen. This still is coming off the heels of not George Floyd, Mike Brown and everything. See, we tend to just automatically want to think about George Floyd's situation and do all this DEI work, but this stuff been happening since 2015 with Mike Brown, and everybody told us we were lying or it ain't real. Matter of fact, it was started all the way back in the 90s and the 80s, the 60s, and 70s. We can go on and on if you want to go about that. So it's been here. We always been told we've been lying. Either way, he was like, all right, cool. Well, where you going? I'm going to the hospital right here to do an assessment. He's like, all right, well, all right, I'm going about your way. I said, anything wrong? Nah, just checking. All right, cool. So I'm like, what was that about? Again. And I had to go do an assessment to make sure somebody was safe enough to go home or to go inpatient at the same time. How do you deal with that? Just getting racially profiled 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning while trying to go an assessment to make a very important decision. If I should take away somebody's rights, a temporary detention order is involuntary putting somebody in the hospital if they meet the criteria, or if they're safe enough to go home. Do y'all understand the weight and the magnitude of that decision while coming off being profiled for no reason? And lastly, before I, and not really having nobody to process that with, because again, I'm the only black male in my department. My sisters, we can rap about it. They can hold me up and support me. talk to my wife about it, but she know. But the system that I'm operating in, they don't understand that. So lastly, before we go, the last one, which really broke me, that I really still struggle with today. I did a speaking engagement about it, broke down about it, really didn't know it affected me that way. But doing a crisis assessment again on a young kid, maybe like 18, 19, 20, something like that, doing a crisis assessment, they had thoughts about wanting to harm themselves, had a plan, had an intent. They met criteria for hospitalization. First time ever getting involved with the mental health treatment or mental health system at all. First time involvement in that. Y'all understand, going back to what I'm talking about, I'm big on education, advocacy, and awareness. And she met criteria. They didn't want to go in the hospital. So I had to do a temporary detention order, which is an involuntary commitment to a psychiatric facility. At the time, we used law enforcement to transport clients via handcuffs. That has since changed to alternative transportation with soft handcuffs now, or restraints, because we felt that was not equitable. But that came after, later on. That came after I left my job in 2019. I had to tell that black mom and that black child that they were going to the psychiatric hospital in the back of a police car, in handcuffs, against their will. Me, the 6'1" black man, doing a crisis assessment. Me doing my job duty, which was to ensure that this person was safe. They wasn't safe enough to go home. But was they safe enough to go to psychiatric facility in handcuffs? So I struggle with that story. I struggled with that for forever still, to this day, because I potentially probably hindered the thought that if that person have thoughts of wanting to harm themselves ever again, would they ever reach out? This is what I say the systems need to be changed and addressed and dealt with and overhauled, because they are not conducive to what is needed, especially for us in the black community. That's my last story. And so some of these are the questions that you want to ask yourself, because just because I'm a black professional doesn't mean I don't need to work on establishing trust, safety, and rapport with my clients, even though they're African Americans too. I'm not privy to that, but especially for other clinicians, white clinicians, other people of other races, how are you establishing trust, safety, and rapport in the space that you operate in, whether that be peer recovery, advocacy, clinicians, private practice, healthcare systems? How are you doing that? How are you establishing trust, safety, and rapport with your African American clients? Are you stigmatizing them? Are you judging them before they even come in? Are you tired of them always coming in with the same stuff with no progress? What are you doing to address that? How are you addressing your own internal biases? Kind of that same question. You have your own internal bias about this client or about the black population or the black men, black women, wherever it may be, black LGBTQ. You have your own internal bias about that. How are you addressing that within your own personal self, but also the systems and entities that you operate in as well? And it really starts with personal self, because the personal self permeates through your professional lens. So just because you got those credentials doesn't mean you don't have no bias. Lastly, are you fearful of African American people? And if so, why? I can sense fear or anxiety when I walk in certain rooms. I could tell, even when I come into speaking engagements, it's oh, wait a minute. He looks smaller in the video, in the pictures. My presence takes up a big room. I don't mean it to. I'm a caring, loving guy. At least I try. But I'm not going to hold my tongue either. So are you fearful? And if you're fearful, then why? Is that a stigma? That's a bias? Something you grew up with? It's not just, oh, I got a black friend. No, what? Because if you got a black friend, then you should understand all the things that they're going through and what they're struggling with on an everyday basis in America. That shouldn't be your answer. You should be also fighting to help the systems to dismantle them so they can have equitable access to them. So that is my presentation with 3 minutes to spare. Anybody got questions? I see my man's got questions already. What's up with it?
You spoke earlier about the limited number of black men in the profession. I think in your bio, you referenced 3.8% of all clinicians are of black ethnicity.
Yeah.
Or represent the black culture, whether diaspora-wise or black indigenous Americans. And I attended a predominantly white institution for my undergrad and for both of my graduate degrees, and I got a good education through that process, and I was very fortunate. But I didn't get a chance to gain the mentorship or the collaborative power
Right.
that I would have gotten, let's say, if I had attended Howard or another university. It was just a matter of fate that I think I went to that university, so it wasn't anything that I'm ashamed of. But at the same time, I think there is a lot of relevance in talking about the need for a community of like-minded black men and black women to join together in a conglomerate of fellowship to share ideas,
Yeah.
to process information such as, your crisis work, and what it entails for our own personal well-being, and longevity in the career, and to avoid burnout. So I agree with you on that stance, and I'm just wondering what your thoughts are about networking groups or creating a networking group or starting something similar to that to allow African-American providers and black providers and black in the sense of Caribbean, African, and also African-American to form a union so we can share information with each other.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts about that, and how would something like that be able to get off the ground?
I think it's being done. I know for me in my spaces, like I said, I went to a predominantly white institution, George Mason University. VCU is pretty diverse. But, like online, like we have like Clinicians of Color, which is a group of black therapists all over the actual United States of America, Caribbean, and everybody included in that, networking through social media. So, what thing has done from the pandemic is the social media and rise in networking with other professionals. So like, there's Clinicians of Color. I think Taraji P. Henson is doing something for black professionals as well now. Some of these are Facebook groups too, and then Twitter groups like that are using social media for what it's intended to, which is networking and creating that community. So I think it's possible, and I think there are a lot of people out there on the groundwork that's getting it done now. You just got to tap in with those communities. A lot of it is social media based, but I'm seeing more conferences. I'm seeing more, retreats. I'm seeing more mastermind groups coming together to kind of share those stories and stuff like that. Even with me, like I have, I connected with some black male social workers. One is in Portland, one is in Detroit, I think Detroit, Michigan, one is in Boston, DC, my man's in DC, and we created kind of a group that we share stuff like that. And we're all different types of social workers. And then we kind of mixed on that. And we have a collective too. So it's just, it's forming, it's there. It's definitely there. But yeah, I think they told me I got to conclude. I don't know if I got questions or not. I don't know. I can't do. Yeah. Can I do questions or?
I'm sorry, real quick. I just want to commend you because what you're doing is excellent. Because not only are you speaking out and you're not afraid to tell your stories, because me coming from the neighborhoods of Detroit, it can be, I had some reckless times myself.
Right.
Crazy reckless. But for you to come up here and do this, and what's incredible is that you're up there like you are authentically yourself.
Yeah.
You know, when people hear you say this, that, the third, sound, 17, some people may not know what that means, but it's how we talk.
Yeah.
And you're not afraid to change your vernacular. And maybe I shouldn't say that. So I love that about this. And that's great. And everybody here that is not of color, that is not afraid to be in this room and hear your stories. That's excellent as well.
Yeah.
I commend them as well.
Yeah.
Great job.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. She got it. She got a question. I know we got to conclude, but she got a question. She had the mic. I can't let her go.
I want to piggyback and say thank you because as an African-American woman with an African-American son, and I work with African-American youth, high risk. I've worked with violence intervention, therapeutic day schools, and, and I think stepping into the room, I wanted to hear that different perspective. And like you said, I don't meet many African-American social workers and things of that nature. And it helped me step outside myself that although I have a son, although I am an African-American woman, I am not African-American male. So my question is, what would you suggest, knowing like that I work with very high risk, addiction, violence, like it's very high, like to be more instrumental? I do mainly come from a art perspective. I use a lot of
like that.
I call it art healing, but
yeah,
you name we freestyling in here, okay?
Yeah, for sure. You gotta do what you gotta do to get there.
Yeah, and to see my young person talk about, his brother passing away, his last words, and me capturing that moment and say, now you hold that. Now, I know he's not about to do this in front of the homies, he may have said it and he choked it, but it was like, I want you to hold that, that's gonna save your life. But how could I be more instrumental? Because I've been coming in, maybe not with the mama vibe, but just knowing like these like my sons because they're black youth, but I'm not a black man. Yeah.
I think what you're doing, though, is instrumental and important. I mean, I think it's amazing all you're already doing that, especially from an artistic and expression standpoint. I mean, if you're able to find some black male clinicians that can help out and support that to kind of take some of that burden off, that'll be helpful. But I know as far as us, we're far few in between. But I think you taking that and then expanding upon that, maybe like artistically, creatively, getting them some things that it can be tangible, that they can take that pain and struggle and work it out and create it out. I think that's going to be beneficial for you. I think you're doing it.
No, but I like that. Find me.
Yeah.
Somewhere, somebody somewhere. I just might have to lift a couple.
Yeah. You got a couple people, but like keep doing what you're doing and then just build off of it. Build it, move it, and grow it. Expand it. Yeah.
Now, what would you build? I do crafting with the young ladies, but I have not come up with one thing. Because, I mean, what I'm about to tell the brothers, they about to come in here and make, you know what I mean?
But why not?
What they going to make? I don't know. I'm gonna think
whatever they want to make. Whatever they feeling, whatever they got going on. Hey, listen, I know this looks different for us, but go ahead and craft. Go ahead and do something. Just build this house real quick. It's therapeutic. This color. Let's color some things. That's therapeutic. Yeah. Play some cards. Like all of that, it's not gender specific. You know what I'm saying? I love crafting, creating stuff, mainly on the car. But then, every once in a while, like, what I'm saying, I'll get into that creating an ideal logo bag and putting colors and flyers together. That's therapeutic for me. So, yeah.
I just thought about the struggle bag. I thought about jeans, but I'm going to go back with my own box. Thank you.
Yeah, sneakers too. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say thank you from a man of a certain age to see a young man up there speaking his truth.
Yes, sir.
And keep doing a great job. To echo what the gentleman said from Detroit, just keep, expressing yourself and being that present in that room. Because I was that man in that room in the midst of other people, not of my hue. Mm-hmm. And then that duality of, are you that one, that good one? Yeah. As opposed to all the rest of us, our brothers and sisters. So I commend you on that. But my question is probably for a bigger discussion later on. Yeah. Since you say you're a deacon, brother. Yes, sir. I do want to hit on the topic about the black church and mental health.
I'm here.
And not being there to facilitate in our congregations where the healing needs to begin. And I think we have not done a very good job in the black church in providing those kind of resources out to our family in the community. So we can talk about that offline.
Absolutely. You can have Jesus and the therapist too.
Good afternoon. I am Cherie Graham, and I'm a peer support specialist. And I live in Philadelphia, and I go to this program, and I enlighten people on their recovery. I help them with all different kind of things. So the owner of the company asked me to go into this room and talk to these people. When I get to the room, it's 8 men. It's a white guy and one Hispanic and then 6 black brothers. I gave them what I had inside me.
Right.
I gave them the wisdom and knowledge to know the difference and make a difference in your life, because you only get one life.
Right.
You gotta be strong. By the time I finished speaking to these men, 2 of them were crying. You know, men get molested, they get raped, they go through all kind of things. Most people think that a black man is supposed to be stronger than anyone. They're a king, they give them their props, all of that. But they never dig deep inside these men to see what's at the core of their body. They don't allow them to express themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna keep on doing this thing.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to give that to you and all of you guys, because I am satisfied in my life right now that I'm able to teach people. I'm able to give love, respect, and honor. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. I think I went over my time with the questions, but you know, is there any more questions? Are we good? Or you catch me out after? We can talk about some stuff too.
No, Gary, but really, I think I want to echo what others have already said here. I'm super grateful for your presentation today. I sat here in the back of the room and listened to your experience, and I felt like you were talking about me. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been in the industry for about 12 years. I also got my career started in inpatient facility. I've also done crisis work. So really, just my hats off to you.
Yeah.
Much in agreement to, I think, Rashad, where he may have just walked out already, but the other gentleman complimented you just on your ability to be your authentic self.
Yeah.
That takes and carries a lot of weight in the behavioral health space. And I just want to continue to encourage you on the path that you're taking and express my gratitude, man. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
I appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm gonna be my authentic self. I talk the same way I talk in therapy too. You know what I'm saying? I can go clinical jargon, I can take it over here, and I'm a little country. I got a little country slang in there too, so it is what it is, you know? Thank y'all for participating, and thank y'all for everything. I appreciate it. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. I try to do some stuff with my church.